Good evening, Sword Family, and welcome to another edition of the Teahouse. And the internet's still being annoying. This is going to be fun. All right, so today, in honor of Dia de los Muertos, we will be discussing Chinese funeral customs, if we can actually get through the next hour without losing connection too many times. Now, I know it's a little odd to be crossing cultures like that, but I figure Dia de los Muertos is a celebration of paying respect to past lost loved ones. And as Halloween just passed a couple of days ago, there's no reason why we can't just talk about the same thing in Chinese culture. But first, as always, comments. And first through the door, 32 minutes early, is my lovely Foxy. Welcome everyone to the Teahouse. And Aunt Donna's here. Hey, Foxy. Hey, everyone. Hello, Aunt Donna. And Kitty is joining us as well. Evening all. Good evening, Kitty. And there is Carl. Hello, Foxy, Donna, and Kitty. Hello, Carl. Donna greeting Kitty and Whitman Dude. And Dan is here. Hello and good evening. Just got through out in the yard, so I'm ready to have some fun. Well, this might not be the most fun topic to discuss, but I think it's fitting. And Donna asking, there's the last man standing tonight and what time? Dan says, stupid o'clock at 10, last man standing at 11 Eastern. And Carl greeting Dan. Donna saying, okies. And Pup freshly emptied before stream. Now I won't have to interrupt things. And he is passed out in front of the front door. So you might get a Indigo sighting and you might not. For those who are not aware, most of the people chatting are very much aware, but for those who are not, last October, we had to put down my beloved co-host, Hooli. It came on very sudden, unexpectedly, and we just couldn't let her suffer anymore, so we had to get a hold of a local vet, and sadly, we had to put her down. And I was very much of the opinion that it was going to take a long time before we had another dog. I just didn't see any way that I could stand having another pet around. I cried a lot the day of and the next couple of days after we had to put her down. But then, 11 days later, we were coming home, and there was a small farmer's market, And Foxy asked if I wanted to stop. And at first, I was like, no, I just want to go home. I want to eat lunch and just no. But something told me that I needed to stop. And so I did. And just like all farmers markets, there was fresh baked bread and honey and jam. But there was also a small booth from our local animal shelter that had dogs and cats. And we stopped because despite how I used to be when I was younger, someone has very much turned me into an animal person. And because it had been a week and a half since I lost my other dog, I've been very much feeling wanting to have something to love on and, pet and stuff. So, of course, I had to go and pet all of the dogs there. And I even talked to a couple of the tiny little kittens there, too. But they didn't even come close enough to the cage that I could pet them. So, and there were 5 dogs there. And most of them were fairly energetic. One was a little standoffish, but I don't blame them at all because they were blind. The person working there said that they thought that the dog was abused, and that's how they lost their sight, and that just really, really makes me angry. But one dog out of the 5 was just the chillest little pup I had ever seen. He was laying down when we approached and just kind of crawled over to the edge of the cage when I stuck my hand down and sniffed me. And he was just really, really sweet. And then I found out that some good Samaritan, had gone and paid all of the adoption fees for all of the animals that day. So any animal, dog or cat, that you wanted to take home that day, you could take home for free. Not going to cost you anything. And I also found out that if you went across the parking lot into the Tractor Supply, that you could get a free bag of dog food on top of the free adoption fee. So we ended up bringing home a dog. And it's been a week now. He's pretty much settled in. The first couple of days, he was kind of a little skittish. He's still there we go. Him and 3 of his siblings were dropped off at a car wash, so I kind of think that's why he's afraid of, cars and outside. But yeah, so he's over there, sound asleep. So yeah. Carl laughing. Dan says, evidently I dreamed those science videos I watched after leaving the green room at a reasonable hour. We're not going to talk about dreams after the green room because, I posted that on Facebook earlier. Thank you very much, Trey. That was something. Stream before the stream. Indeed. Walk before the talk. The poop before the scoop, yes. and Carl laughing, and Dan laughing, and oh, look, Richie is joining us. Evening, folks. Evening, Rich. If we can get this whole annoying internet crap figured out, which hopefully we will, because it's going to be really, really annoying if I'm doing interviews and missing half the conversation because this stupid StreamYard keeps cutting out on me. How would you like to be the next person on Tea Time in December? Yeah. That's my plan for December. And then we'll have to figure out something for January. We'll see. And Foxy greeting Rich. And Foxy crosses fingers for StreamYard. Yeah, we've already seen that didn't work. Donna greeting Rich. Yeah. Only program not working on his machine. He can watch other bids just fine. And I can do other things just fine. But when this is buffering and I try something else in another window, it also is really, really slow. So it's kind of annoying. Donna crossing her fingers too. Just started a couple weeks ago. Before that, it worked just fine. This is true. Carl greeting Rich. Very frustrating. All I can think of is some update happened that tweaked something and threw something out of balance. But I am not it. No, it's not you. But it's definitely something going on. I even turned down my my definition in the video, so it's not trying to go to 1080p, but it's still being stupid and annoying. Hope for the best for tonight's show, and we'll see. Foxy certainly is. 5:30, here we go. Yes. And there is the incomparable Joe Bachman. Good evening, folks. Good evening, Joe. His was the last interview, and it worked just fine. And then the week after that, it just started being stupid. I don't know what the hell's going on. And Foxy greets Joe. And Donna greets Joe. And Carl greets Joe and me. Yes, hello, I am here. And Donna greeting me. And there's Trey. Hey, all. Hello. Yeah, you caused an interesting dream. It was yeah, no. And Foxy greets Trey. And Carl greets Trey. And Donna greets Trey. Everyone greets Trey because Trey is awesome. The very, very first interview on Tea Time. And we ended up talking for another 45 to 50 minutes after the stream had already ended, just because it was that much fun. And Sarah's joining us. Evening. And hi, brother. I understand about the fur baby. Yeah. Just before this, right before she took him out, he was jumping all over the side of my chair right here and getting his head right next to mine. But now that the camera's on and he's been out, he's passed out over there, and he won't make an appearance, but we'll see. He might wake up. And Carl greets Sarah, and Sarah greets Carl. And Voxer greets Sarah. And Donna greeting the Dark Mistress. Glad you allowed yourself to cry. Too much of society thinks it's weakness. No. Yeah, I didn't really have much choice. In the vet's office, after they gave her the injection that stopped her heart and they left for a little while, I about collapsed. I think the only thing that stopped me from falling straight to the ground was the wall behind me. I have had that dog for 15 years. It was the first pet that was ever really mine, because growing up, I was never allowed to have any kind of pet that had fur because my mother claimed that she was deathly allergic and claimed that I was also deathly allergic. which to certain extents I am. Cats really, really set me off bad. Horses set me off bad. But Huli and Remy, which was our other dog that we lost a few years back, they did not bother me. And for the first couple of days with him, his name is Inigo. His full name is Inigo Bartoya. Yes, he's named after the Princess Bride character. Yes, it is awesome. For the first couple of days with him, I noticed that I was sniffling and sneezing more often because it was a new allergen brought into the house. But now, I barely notice. So, not only did I allow myself to cry, I allowed myself to mourn, and then not get past mourning, but to accept the loss and allow myself to move on to a new animal. And Sarah greeting Foxy and Aunt Donna. Aw, to the anonymous donor for the fur babies to find their forever homes. And one of the little kittens got adopted while we were in Tractor Supply getting our free bag of dog food. So I don't know how many of them got picked up that day, but I know for sure the 2 of them did. And that's enough for me to say the day was a success. Meant to be, yeah, apparently it was. No adoption free and a bag of free food. Yeah, the gals were speaking. Yes, they were. And it was not subtle at all. Give him more time to adjust without worrying about how he is. Everyone's getting used to the newness. Oh, I'm aware. I'm fully aware that in time he'll get used to going out and not being terrified of other people. Halloween was interesting because we took him out as soon as we got home from work, and all the kids in costume just freaked him right the hell out. He's like, whoa, what is this? Why are these things look strange? I don't know about this. Exactly, darkness is yes. And apparently Dan's mother decided he needed to go out tomorrow afternoon to celebrate his 67th birthday. Yes, you do. Celebrate your birthdays because you never realize how many of them you're going to have. You never realize if this is going to be your last one or not. So go out and celebrate your birthdays, even if you've never celebrated one before. Even if you were raised in a household that didn't really make a big deal out of birthdays, you make a big deal out of them. Yes, they were, Donna. Yes. 3 days, 3 weeks, and 3 months for animals to truly settle into disparate aspects of their new homes. Yeah, they actually had a little plaque on the side of the tent that said that too, which I thought was interesting for the people who were like maybe getting their first pet. It was 3 days to decompress, 3 weeks to get now I don't remember. But yes, that's a very good rule. It's a very good rule. And if you've never had a pet before, or if you've only had stupid pets like goldfish, which was my entire childhood, it's definitely something that's good to learn. You should, Dancy. And I'm pretty sure that me and Katie will have new stories, or first stories in her case, posted to Apphelion tomorrow. So keep an eye out for those, because I helped Kitty with one section of her story, and only one. So definitely go check that out and make sure that she knows that she did a good job, because I thought it was really, really well written, especially for someone who hasn't written anything since high school. It was good. First 3 days were good, on to 3 weeks, other than not sleeping a whole lot because he decided that, after I took him out for the last time before going to bed, that when we came back in, it was now time to play. So last Sunday, we didn't really get a whole lot of sleep that night. It was kind of, Let me know what date and what talking points you want to hit. All right. I will have to look because I don't want to mess with anybody's schedule. Any ideas on what's causing a StreamYard RC from Rich and Joe? That'd be nice to know, but it's holding for the moment. I've seen the signal drop and rise, but hopefully we're... Foxy, we both forgot to say don't forget to like and share. Yeah. Don't forget to like and share. Make sure that people know that this goofy-looking person is on here talking about things that apparently I know nothing about because, people like to have their opinions, and I like to tell people that their opinions are, incorrect. So, time change tonight, turn clocks back an hour. Nah. Yes, you did. Blame it on the upcoming time change that screws everything up just because, yeah. All with the bonding of the new puppers. We're doing pretty good. He's definitely comfortable around us, which happened almost immediately, which I thought was cool. Without seeing what else is running in the background and running speed tests, it's hard to say. Yeah. I'm not doing anything at all. And the only thing that I think she's running back there is this stream. So, I don't know. Bonding well, he's smart. He is smart. Being there to see her go. I know you were there with her, but yeah, it was hard. It was really hard. So great to hear. It's going to take time. That's normal, but you guys will be inseparable in no time. And he already... When he's scared, the first couple of days he would try and bolt away from us, but now when he's scared, he'll stick to the side of us. So that's already something. Want me to hop in the studio just in case the net goes down? I don't think it's going to go down. I think it's just going to kind of buffer, but we'll see. If it absolutely goes, then yeah. Speed tests aren't great, but until after your stream, they worked okay. It's frustrating, yes. I feel you, Bucky, passing my arms the Saturday before Labor Day. I miss my little idiot. Yeah, I miss my little girl. But at the same time, I have something new to latch onto, so it's good. And hugs for Rich, yes. Feel called out. I think you were. Yeah. Did kind of go after your knees on that one. No, I was aiming a little higher. Because she doesn't have the greatest knees in the first place. So I'll go after, the upper thigh. Because they have some muscle to them, Do the same thing to Misty. If she's not watching, please let Misty know that I really enjoyed our extended conversation on, was it Wednesday or Thursday night? I really, really enjoyed that. That's the other thing that annoys me about StreamYard is friggin' Discord works just fine. It's just StreamYard. So, I don't know. Swept a leg and then tickled while she was down. Oh, hell no. She does not do tickles. At all. Such a pointed call out. Well, knees nothing. I'm so short that was a gut punch. Well, sometimes the people, sometimes you need to tell people the things that they need to hear. Have 10 stories ready to HTML for Aphelion tomorrow for upload. Just have to remember to download the other editor's work to re-upload to IndieCD as well. Good. Good. Most recent prior Fur Baby would go nuts with excitement when she had fresh air. It was expected after a while. And I think he'll get there. The thing I'm really most interested to see is how he handles snow. Because both of our other two dogs, Huli loved snow. She did this thing that we love to call dolphining, where she would hop in arcs in the snow like you see dolphins hopping out of the surf. But Remy hated snow. He'd set one paw down and then lift it up and look at his hand like, ugh, yeah. So look at what sites he's trying to access. I know if I'm in StreamYard and try to hit IndieCD, my system slows and I'm loot like I'm trying to impersonate Max Headroom. That's why I'm not doing anything else at all. I'm literally just sitting here. Have it queued up just in case. Thank you. Knows you guys are safe havens. Not that I thought he wouldn't, but yeah, he's taken some interesting pictures. We sent one to my brother-in-law, and he asked if we could get a non-OnlyFans dog picture. So just take that with, yeah, just take that for. What's the tradition of Chinese honor the passing of their pets? Yes, it's been almost a half an hour. Let's actually get into the subject that we're supposed to be talking about. It depends. Pets, much like children, are kind of not as important. If a child or a non-married bachelor dies, then there really is no process. The funeral rites are not done. They just kind of bury them. They just kind of put them in the ground. Because it's very different from here. Well, again, that very much depends what happens, you know, what the family burying the dog does. Because we buried both of our dogs at work. We didn't take them to, you know, we couldn't afford to get them cremated. Otherwise, that would have been definitely something much preferable. But we buried them at work so that every time we're at work, we're right there next to them. We can go out and see them and talk to them and tell them about all the things that we've done since they passed. But in Chinese culture, you're not supposed to show respect to someone younger than you. So a child, if a child passes, the parents are not allowed to perform the funeral rites because it's all supposed to be done by the younger generation. So it kind of depends. But as far as I'm aware, I don't think actual funeral rites themselves are performed for past pets. I will learn how to talk one day. So no, I don't really think that the actual rites themselves are done to pets. I think they just put them in the ground, or possibly, you know, depending on the pet, carve them up and feed them to the family. Because yes, some poor, emphasis on that word, poor Chinese people will eat dog because it's the meat they have available. The whole racist trope about Chinese people and eating dogs just really, really pisses me off, because it's really not that much different than the racist, stupid trope about poor people in America eating roadkill. It's the same kind of crap. But yes, funerals. StreamYard's been releasing a lot of new things and seen quite a few complaints on Facebook. It might be something on their end, and that's kind of what I'm thinking too. Never thought of that until now. Know exactly what you're talking about. I had a husky. It was great to watch. Then a blue heeler had a Snoopy nose and would look like she was snorting something before it melted, then sneezing her head off. Yep. No funeral rites for a bachelor. Nope. Not like a formal ceremony, just their leanings on what to do with their family. Yeah, I think they'll just bury them or, toss them in a pit. It's terrible, but it's true. Sometimes just it happens. So the main funeral rite itself is that it is customary for the family of the person passing to hold a vigil while the person dies. You want to be able to spend every last minute up until the moment of passing with the dying individual. You want them to spend their last moments before entering the afterlife surrounded by family. This is a process called shouling, and it is a way for loved ones to show piety and loyalty to the person passing. Family members will take shifts because, let's face it, it's fairly difficult to watch someone that you love die. So you'll take shifts. But it is always done by the younger generation. If a grandparent passes, their children, their grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so on will take shifts watching them up until pretty much the moment they take their last breath. The color white in Chinese culture and most Asian cultures is a symbol of mourning. White in China does not mean the same thing as white in the West. White in the West is wedding clothes. It shows purity and all that stupid garbage that we can thank, was it Queen Elizabeth, I think? That's all her fault. Before that, white wedding dresses were not even a thing. And then she came along and made the whole virginal purity garbage, and now wedding dresses are white. But in Asian cultures, white is a mourning color. When families are doing these funeral rites, they're wearing white. They will have a white banner over their house so that people passing by will know, oh, someone in this household just died. White is a color of mourning and sadness. People, the closest people, sons, daughters, wives, will wear white. More decent relatives can wear different colors: white, black, blue, green. Red, yellow, and brown are not worn during mourning periods because those are positive colors, especially red. Red is the luck color. It's the good luck color. This here, this was not an accident. Same thing with all the red you see around the borders and stuff. Red is a luck color. And yes, most wedding dresses in Asian countries are red because it is a good luck color. Yellow, technically, you're not supposed to wear yellow unless you are part of the royal family because yellow is the color of the emperor and the royal family. So, yes. Probably Queen Victoria rather than Elizabeth the Point Bacon. Yes. My wedding dress was red. I've seen that picture. And I'm just going to say, damn. And we'll just leave it at that. Yeah, we'll just, damn. Mourning periods can last a long time. They can last up to 3 years after a passing. You will still see close family members wearing white. It's not a one and done. It's not a, okay, we've done the shouling, we've done the funeral, we've, burned incense and we burned the joss paper and all that stuff. We've done all that crap. Let's move on. No, you will see people wearing white and mourning for a long time. And the older the family member that died, the longer the mourning process can take. This is not universal, but it is definitely something. Yeah, I try really hard not to. Yeah, we'll just put this comment up here and we'll move on. When it's time for the actual funeral itself, an obituary notice called a fuwen is sent to relatives and friends announcing the date and time of the funeral procession. The date is usually selected according to the Chinese calendar, which is different from the Western calendar. As we discussed a couple months ago, Chinese New Year. The Asian calendar is a lunar solar calendar. You cannot have, well, actually you can. I think Arabic countries do have a full lunar calendar. The first of the month is the day of the new moon. The day of the full moon is the last day of the month. Months are 28 days long. There are 13 months in the year. Chinese calendar is almost lunar, but they do a little bit of solar calendar to fill in the extra days so that you still have 12 months in a year. But certain days in the Chinese calendar are good for some things and bad for other things. For instance, my parents have a horrible, horrible tendency of traveling on days that, according to the Chinese calendar, are inauspicious days for travel. And it shows. Don't. There are several online. You can look this stuff up. If is that day is bad for travel, bad for funerals, bad for weddings. My sister and my brother's first wedding both were on days that, according to the Chinese calendar, were inauspicious days for weddings, and they're both divorced. You can call it voodoo. You can call it, bullshit if you want to. But I have found that these calendars actually do tell you that things happen on days that are inauspicious for certain things. So if you are having a funeral, you need to look up the calendar, be like, okay, this is a bad day for funerals. This is a bad day for burials. You need to look at that stuff. And they will find a day that is auspicious, that is good luck for funerals, and then we'll pick that day for the funeral procession. The deceased will be dressed in clean funeral clothes in preparation for their departure and journey into the afterlife. There is a ritual called Dalian, and that is transferring the body into a coffin. Once the Dalian is performed, the body will rest in a hall decorated with idioms and sayings prior to burial or cremation. Now, as we said, according to custom, an elder should never show respect to someone younger. So if the deceased is a young bachelor, his body cannot be brought home and must remain at the funeral parlor. If I were to pass, my parents would have to leave my body at the funeral parlor instead of taking it home, because yes, that is part of the funeral rites, is once the body is transferred to the coffin, the body is brought home for a couple days so that the direct family can perform a different funeral rite to make sure that the body will pass into the afterlife properly. So there are no children to pray for the bachelor, and he just has to kind of sit in the funeral home and wait. Funerals, depending on the size of the village, if it's a small rural village, they can last days and include really complex rituals based on local customs. Now, Trey says, do the Chinese usually do embalming? They do now, because you kind of have to. Because, like I said, these things can take days just to get to putting the body in the ground. But I don't think in like ancient times, I don't think they did do it. They just, kept the body as cold as possible. The funeral procession itself is quite a bit different than Western funerals. Chinese funerals are all about making sure the spirit passes into the afterlife as comfortably as possible. So you will offer prayers, you will light incense and pray. The picture on the right-hand side of the thumbnail is funeral incense. It usually is longer lasting than just, regular everyday, prayer incense. It lasts longer. You will light your incense. You will hold it to your forehead and you will pray, set it into the, the incense holder, get down, you will kowtow, which is touching your forehead to the floor 3 times. That is showing respect to the, the passing person. And then the next person will go and the next person will go. Now, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this beforehand, but if you ever are eating in a Chinese restaurant, pretty sure I mentioned this. Never, ever, if you are using chopsticks, take your chopsticks and place them vertically, sticking up into the rice. This is a big no-no because it resembles funeral incense. Don't ever do that. It's bad. There is also joss paper, which is the little yellow paper that you saw in the other side of the thumbnail. That is burnt because it is believed that the things that are burnt as an offering at the funeral will become real on the other side of the veil. So if you burn these small yellow paper coins, you burn those, that will be money in the afterlife for the person passing. If you've ever watched certain like Chinese television shows, you'll see wives or, children burning these little paper coins. And they will burn a lot of them because you want your past loved one to have money in the afterlife. Now, Donna makes a very, very, very good point. She says, I heard of a tradition where if a young man dies a bachelor, the family will buy an unmarried deceased woman and marry them. Yes, these are called ghost brides. And yes, it does happen in Chinese culture as well. You can buy a woman, because yes, this is a patriarchal society. Yes, it is terrible, but you can buy an unmarried, usually virgin woman to be the ghost bride for a past young unmarried bachelor. And it is her job to mourn for him, and in a lot of cases, be buried with him. So yeah, in some cases, they are buried alive with a man they've never met. And they will then lead him into the afterlife as his ghost bride. And it's true. It's definitely, it's a bad thing, but if you don't have anyone else to mourn for you, then the family wants you to, have someone in the afterlife that can look after you, and they will take care of it. It's not great, but you also, beyond just incense and joss paper, is offering food. Because you want them to eat in the afterlife. And you'll see a lot of the same foods that you see during Chinese New Year. Oranges, which are the symbol of the sun. That was interesting. Mention the symbol of the sun, and my little Wi-Fi light turns on. Whew, yeah, that was definitely something. But oranges, dumplings, you will get very similar to in the West. Yeah, I know. Well timed. I didn't. This thing is meant to go off or go on at sunset. It's just a timed light. It goes on at sunset and off at midnight. I used to have it go on at specific times. I had a program to go on at specific times, but I have to keep going in and changing the time as the seasons changed. So I was just like, oh, look, there's a setting that you can just have it go on at sunset. There it goes. Just as I'm talking about symbols of the sun. But yeah. But just like In the West, you'll have Taoists or Buddhist priests come and offer prayers, make sure that the deceased soul finds peace, because you do not want a restless ghost. Restless ghosts are the spirits of people who had unfinished business during their regular life, or they were angry. You want to make sure that when the person passes, they're comfortable and they're happy, so they don't come back to haunt your ass. The family will then place a memorial plaque, very similar to a headstone, in the family altar. It's very similar to the Spanish ofrenda, bringing it back to Dia de los Muertos. You'll have plaques of family members lined up in the altar. If you died at sea and your body was not found, they will do something called a water road, or shuelu. It's a completely different memorial service. You have to guide that spirit back so that they can find their way home. They have to find their way back to the family, because if they're lost at sea, spirits in a lot of different cultures cannot cross the ocean. They cannot cross water. So if someone dies at sea, they're kind of stuck there, so that you have to do shuelu and bring them home. Because otherwise, again, restless ghost. You want to make sure that your loved ones are well cared for. Every year during the Qingming festival, people will go out and clean off tombstones. They will relight incense, re-pray. Qingming festival is basically Chinese Memorial Day. You want to, make sure that your ancestors that have passed know that you're still thinking about them, that you still care about them, you still want them to be happy in the afterlife. So there you go. That is basically how Chinese funerals work. So if anyone has any other questions, I can definitely attempt to answer them. But in the meantime, I would like to tell a little story. Good info. Thank you, Carl. I'm going to tell a little story about my first. Yeah, it was the first time I'd ever experienced a Chinese funeral. It was when my first mantis shifu passed of old age. Traditional here to send flowers to a funeral. Is there anything like that? So, again, just like the embalming, modern day funerals, there is a lot of cross-culturalization. So I'm sure you could send flowers now. But I don't think... I'm sure you could send flowers to the family themselves as an offering. I don't really know what else to call it. As a symbol of sympathy. But as like an offering to the deceased, I don't really think that was as big of a deal. You know, you want them to have things that will be useful to them in the afterlife, and flowers aren't really. I mean, flowers are symbols. You have the lotus, which grows in harsh, you know, it grows out of the mud and the crap. So, you know, the plum blossom grows in winter. Excuse me. So flowers are symbols, but for the most part, I don't think it was as big of a thing over there. Foxy's right. I think maybe sending food or money tokens for the deceased might be better. Yes. If you can get a hold of some funeral incense or joss paper or, you know, things like that, food for the altar would be a much preferred gift than something that's going to just die anyway. But I was, what, 14, 15 when I first met my first Triffle. He was already ancient. The man was in his late 80s or early. He never actually told me because, again, respect for your elders. He never actually gave me a definitive time period when he was born in, but I'm pretty sure late 80s, early 90s. And when he passed in his sleep of old age, I showed up the next day for my usual Mantis class, and the garage door of his house was closed, which was really, really unusual. It was almost always open. So I knew something was up already. Now, despite the fact that I've been training with him for a little while, I've never actually been in his house. It's always in the garage. So I felt kind of odd going to the front door to knock. So I knocked on the garage door, and there was nobody there. I stood there for a little while. I didn't know what to do. I figured, maybe, I don't know, maybe they were gone. Maybe they went to the store. I don't know. So I started to leave. And as I'm walking away, I hear the garage door open. People who have, had houses or been around houses with garage doors, you know that sound. You know the sound of a garage door opening. I heard the door open. So I started walking back up the driveway. I look inside, and there's my Marshall sister, Sherfu's granddaughter, kneeling in front of a picture, completely from head to toe in white. She was wearing almost like a veil, but it wasn't, because it wasn't covering her face, just her head. White robes, the whole thing. And since I started studying, Mantis Fist with him, I've been studying Chinese culture. So I knew what was going on. I'm like, oh shit, he died. And even though we had just recently met, I was, sad at the loss of my teacher. So I went in and I kneeled with her. She handed me a couple of sticks of incense. I lit them. I did the prayer. I did the kowtow. And we just kneeled there on the cement garage floor for at least an hour. And then she stood up She walked in the house. She came back out a couple of minutes later. And she told me when the funeral was going to be. And she left. And he was cremated. And she buried some of his ashes here in our local cemetery. And she took the rest back home overseas with her to go bury him with the rest of his family. But we did light incense. We did burn some joss paper offerings, as one should in respect for the recently deceased, yes. But the burial itself was just kind of, quick. And that was the last time I'd seen her. She took the rest of his ashes back overseas and buried him with his family. Now, if you've ever seen a Chinese cemetery, the headstones are pretty close together. That is because, in a lot of cases, Chinese people are buried basically standing up. Instead of being buried, horizontally like we do here in the West, they're buried like this. Now, people will tell you that that is done to save space. I don't really believe that. And I'll tell you why. I think that they do it that way so that it's easier for the deceased person to make it to the afterlife, because it's a shorter distance from this way. You want to go up instead of having to sit up and crawl. That's just my opinion. I'm going to see if I can find a picture. I know we're over the hour and I should be getting dinner, but I kind of want to show this off a little bit. This might be a good one. Yeah. And we'll see if this kills my internet. There you go. This is a Chinese cemetery. Tombstones will generally have pictures, as you can kind of see here at the top. Names and dates of death. But you see how close these people are buried, especially these three right here. Now, if they were buried laying down, there is no way that these people here would be this close. They're buried standing up. Now, like I said, a lot of people nowadays will tell you this is done to save space so that you can put more tombstones in a smaller area. But I think it's done to make it easier for the deceased to make it to the other side. So there you go. That is a fairly short primer on Chinese funeral customs. Next week, November 9th, I'm going to be discussing another video game, Jade Empire. The first, as far as I'm aware, purely Chinese-based RPG game. It came before Nine Dragons. So we're going to talk a little bit about that next time. The week after that, we will be interviewing Andana on the 16th for tea time. So, thank you all for coming. I hope this was at least informative, if not necessarily, entertaining. But thank everyone for coming. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the love. The dog is still passed out by the door. Good show. Thank you, Carl. Apparently, I'll be buried next to my wife at her church rather than alongside my parents at a cemetery in the Smoky Mountains. I doubt that someone will plant a cedar tree on my... Hey, you never know. Very informative. Great show as always. Thank you, Joe. Great show. Thank you, Trey. And very good show. Thank you, Andana. I'm looking forward to my interview with you. Hopefully, things will behave as well as it has tonight with only the one time it going down. Shh. So I will see everyone next week. 再见。